Hey guys, hope you're all well. My name is Sharon. I'm the founder of Coding Chamber. I graduated from the University of Bedfordshire in 2019 with a first class degree. I spent 3 years working at a company called Infosys, working with clients such as FedEx, Polo Ralph Lauren, Virgin Media, and all sorts of different clients. And now I am running my own business where I'm trying to help university students studying computer science gain their full potential by getting somewhere in life. The links to my website are in the description below, and for those of you who want to access my courses, they're also in the description below. Today's video is a specific topic. When I was in university, there was a particular project that used to havoc and mayhem. Most of the elders that were in university with us were scared of this particular project. Well, I had no idea why. They said to me that make sure you prepare well for this project, make sure you do well in this project, make sure you realize that you won't just pass without trying hard. So I literally wondered, what is so important, what's so big about this project? For those of you who are currently doing this assignment, I will try and answer to the best of my ability and as concise as possible how to do this assignment, how to do it well, and how to do it correctly. The first thing you do when you look at an assignment, or the first thing I used to do when I was in university was, I used to make it easy for myself. What I used to do was, I used to open up the assignment brief and think, okay, how can I simplify this? Because the worst thing you want is when you look at words, like university assignment briefs have this very, very bad habit. They just use big words unnecessarily and make it complex for you guys. So what we're going to do first is we're going to break down the words of the assignment and make it easy for us to understand. I'll tell you why. Because when you look at an assignment and the words you've seen, the words on the assignment are those that you've not seen before, it automatically increases the amount of tasks that you have to do in your head, thus making you feel like the task is difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the university assignment learning outcomes and we are going to condense them and make them simple and easy for us to understand. That's the first thing we're going to do. So guys, as you can see on the screen, the first learning outcome we have is differentiate and critically appreciate the professional, ethical, and social context of agile project management methodologies and their instantiation into practical applications within the IT industry. Let's understand what that actually means to us. So, differentiate means compare. Critically appreciate means do a critical evaluation of both of them. So you want to compare and evaluate. That's what we're going to do. Compare and evaluate. The professional, ethical, and social. So social would be anything relating to human beings, anything relating to society. Ethical would be anything that you can involve in a conversation of right and wrong. Professional would generally be making stakeholders happy, delivering a high quality product to a set of people. So in the context that I'm thinking of, let's go through a doctor surgery application with all this stuff involved. Socially, we need a good doctor surgery application to be able to help our citizens and allow them to get their treatments happen properly and professionally and quickly. As the use of technology in healthcare is becoming increasingly important for improving patient outcomes and enhancing the quality of care, a doctor surgery application can help streamline processes and make things easier for our patients. That's a social context where it can make things easier for our patients. Number two, ethical. We need to make sure that our application covers HIPAA to allow the data to be protected, to allow the data to be secure, and allow the data to be confidential as it is part of healthcare and not everyone wants their data going haywire. Third one is that it's professional. Professionally, it needs to have a professional context. It needs to be a high quality product delivered to the key stakeholders, which is, for example, we need to make sure we have deep understanding of how the health system works or how the healthcare sector works and the specific requirements of the doctor surgery, things that only the doctors would know, so we need to have them on board as well. So that's the social, ethical, and professional, one example of each. Back to our learning outcome. So differentiate and critically appreciate the professional, ethical, and social context of agile project management methodologies and their instantiation into practical applications. This means that, for example, we have a agile project management methodology. We want to instantiate it. Instantiating that would be PRINCE2. Instantiating agile project management methodology, because it's an example of an agile project management methodology. PRINCE2 is. And then instantiating all of this would be discuss an application. So basically what this means is compare and evaluate an application or the professional, ethical, and social context of PRINCE2 being applied inside an application. We are going to differentiate and critically appreciate, so compare and evaluate how this application works, why should we make it, what the social, professional, ethical, and stuff to do with it in lieu with PRINCE2, and answering PRINCE2 according to it. So that's our learning outcome number one. Learning outcome number two is coherently analyze and evaluate an agile project management methodology for a collaborative project in view if a societal, commercial and economic context, as well as ethical implications. So what we want to do is we're trying to analyze properly and coherently, evaluate PRINCE2, which is our agile project management methodology, for a collaborative project, which means a group project, in view, so keeping in mind, is societal, so how it affects society, commercial, how it affects business, and economic context, how it affects money, as well as its ethical implications. So that could be GDPR, that could be HIPAA, that could be whatever. So that's the beginning. Once we clearly understand our definition and we know what we're doing, then we can move forward to our next part. So guys, we have 5 roles currently that we've been told in this assignment that we have to assign. Our project manager role, our startup manager role, our risk manager role, our quality manager role, and our scheduling manager role. These are 5 very, very, very necessary parts of a project in terms of managing the project. Let's now touch on the role of the project manager. The role of the project manager, number 1, is to define the project objectives and scope. What the objectives are is what we're trying to achieve with the project. So our startup manager is responsible for ensuring that the project is set up correctly from the beginning. They are responsible for creating the PID, the project initiation document, and getting approved by the appropriate stakeholders. They are also, the job is to make sure the necessary resources and personnel are available to begin the project. So to begin the project, you need the startup manager who starts everything up and everything. After that, we then have our project manager, whose job is to sit there and think, okay, how do we accomplish this? So he needs to define the objectives and scope. He needs to develop the project plan and schedule. He needs to allocate resources and manage the project budget. He needs to monitor progress and performance to make sure everything's happening correctly. He needs to identify and resolve project issues and risks. And he needs to communicate with stakeholders and report on the project status. So he's the middleman between the developers and the stakeholders, the project manager. He's the guy that the team members are going to speak to, and he's the guy that the stakeholders are going to speak to. So he's the ultimate responsible person. Then we have our quality manager. Our quality manager is to make sure that he develops a quality criteria and a quality plan to make sure that in terms of quality, what you need to have is should, could, would, and must. So must is the things that the project must do, like it has to do, otherwise the project is useless. Should is things that the project can do. So it needs to be divided up into this. So must, may, should, could, would. These modal auxiliary verbs will save your life with this if you're a quality manager. Your job is to make sure that quality control procedures ensure that the application meet the quality criteria, that you conduct testing and quality assurance activities to ensure that the application meets the quality standards, and you have to monitor and report on the quality of the application throughout the project. So quality manager, your job is very important. You need to make sure that the project actually hits the level in terms of quality, what the stakeholders are expecting and what the project manager has defined. You need to make sure that the quality meets. So you can't have an application that is supposed to do X, Y, Z and doesn't do X, Y, Z. You can't have an application that doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It has to do what the must stuff are, meaning the stuff that the application must do, it has to do that. Should stuff, it has to make sure that the should stuff are, maybe they can be hit if they want to. A perfect application would hit them, but they are obviously down to subject and circumstances. Things that are must, for example, are things like the application must log in. Should are things, for example, the application should log in quickly. If it doesn't, it's okay, you'll be forgiven for it, but it's not great. Then we have our risk manager. Our risk manager's job is to identify potential risks and issues that you could fall into. For example, contractors, your developers may not be able to, may not be available on Christmas time, so you need to make sure you have contractors there. That's a risk. Another role of the risk manager is to make sure there's a contingency plan. Another risk that you may have is, I don't know, let's say your technology may not work. Let's say a new update of Apple may be coming out if you're using MacBook Pros. It may slow down your process. Let's say you may not have the relevant office equipment. You may be using a 7-day trial of a certain software application. Things like that. The risk manager's job is to look after stuff like that. His job is to make sure that all the risks that are possible within this project, all the risks that are foreseeable, and he should do research to ensure that the risks that are unforeseeable for the rest of the team, they are foreseeable for him as well. Then we have our scheduling manager. Our scheduling manager's job is probably one of the most difficult. He has to make sure that everything's happening on time. So the key stakeholders are kept informed of what's happening at one particular time. The Gantt chart is made. The Gantt chart to basically show you what the tasks are over, let's say, a 3-month period of the project from start to finish. Scheduling manager's job is to deal with that and to make sure that is happening properly. His basically job is to make sure everything's monitored, everything's happening as possible, and then his job is also to account those members of the team who are not doing it as per the schedule. His also job is to identify and address any scheduling conflicts or issues. The issues that cause the scheduling not to happen on time is his job to address, to make sure all the things are happening on time, to put things in place. So for example, a scheduling manager, what I would advise you to do is over approximate for timing. So something that needs 5 days, give it 2 weeks. Or something that needs a day, appropriate 3 or 4 days to it. I would advise you to go through all the entire project and make sure everything's happening correctly, properly, to make sure you have all the answers for the stakeholders and you have all the answers for the developers. The quality manager, I would make sure that you go research online and find out what normal quality test criteria companies and people use for applications, and apply that on your own. The must, should, could, would is something that we used to use when we were in university. You could use it as well. The risk manager, your job is to basically make sure that the risk assessment is done properly, risks that could happen, and you need to put a contingency plan in place to make sure these risks don't ruin your application. So you need to make sure you do risk mitigation. So make sure there's as less damage as possible to the application, and as less damage as possible if a risk was to happen, and a contingency plan is in place if something was to go wrong. So guys, now we are going to go into each specific document and what is required to make it a success, and I will discuss it in connection with the doctor surgery application that I currently have going on in my head. So correct me if I'm mistaken, but in the project plan we're supposed to have our work packages, time frames, and resources required for each task. Any dependency that the project is dependent upon, we need to have in there. So for example, our IDs that we're going to use to code the project, our resources, laptops, all that stuff, our timelines, maybe a small Gantt chart you'll have in there. So all this stuff will be included in the project plan. I think the way they say it is that the project plan needs to be such that if the entire project was destroyed and you look through the project plan, you'll know what the project was about, what it was supposed to do, and you could carry on the project with the project plan. The project plan is a comprehensive document explaining how the project will be executed, monitored, and controlled. The first thing the project plan must have is an executive summary. It's basically a high-level summary of the project's objectives, scope, and deliverables. Objectives, what we're trying to achieve; scope, the boundaries of the project; and deliverables, meaning what are we going to give as part of this project. We're going to be delivering an application that does XYZ for the doctor surgery. Number 2, project organization. Everybody. Then we have project controls. So how the project will be monitored and controlled, including the uses of checkpoints, meaning on the way how we're going to figure out who's doing what, our progress reports and reviews. So how are we going to review who's doing what? So the project controls to make sure everything's being controlled appropriately. Then we have our schedule. So a detailed schedule of our activities, of our milestones, and our deadlines. After that, we need a resource plan. So a plan outlining the resources for the project, including personnel, equipment, and materials, and if you can, the prices for each and how much it will cost as well. So it will include that next to the budget or similar to the budget. And then we have a communication plan, a plan outlining how each member of the team will communicate with one another. You could have WhatsApp there, you could have, I don't know, face-to-face communication there, but how they will communicate in order to make sure the project happens correctly. That's what we have. And then a change management plan. So a plan outlining how the project will manage change requests and change control. So if anything changes in the project, how it be managed and how it be controlled. Guys, these things are all done for people that have a lot more experience than you and I, so they need to be done. The quality plan is a document that outlines the project's approach to quality management. It should include the following things: a description of the quality objectives. So quality objectives, what is our objective in terms of quality? So okay, we need to make sure that we are hitting certain requirements. We need to make sure our project is able to do certain things to quality. It must do this in particular. So the must things are our quality objectives. Then we have our quality standards. Our quality standards are the sort of the way we are using to basically what we are deriving from to build our quality standards, our quality. So for example, are we using a particular thing online that says that a doctor surgery application must have XYZ, or the patient data must have XYZ, or something else must have XYZ in reference to how it's going to seamlessly coexist with the current IT stuff of our doctor surgery, or how it's going to work with the current setup of the surgery, or maybe how it's going to work with color and stuff like that, the quality in terms of that stuff. So things that I must have, that's the quality standards. Then quality assurance, so what activities we are going to use to make sure the quality is actually good for that stuff. Then we're going to have the quality control, we're going to make sure how we're going to monitor, control, and make sure the project quality is good. And then a description of the roles and responsibilities of each project member in terms of quality management. So that's how the quality plan is going to work. Then we have our risk management plan. Our risk management plan, we're going to identify our risks. We're going to analyze our risks, so how they can happen, how they can't happen, how we can avoid them, and how we can make sure we can mitigate risks. How we're going to monitor and control our risks, and the risk management roles and responsibilities of each team member. So how each team member is going to work in respect to risk management. Documentation, so our work breakdown structure, how everything's going to work together, a detailed breakdown of all the project activities, so we know what exactly is going to be needed and how exactly it's going to work. I would recommend to do all this stuff in table format. Our activity list, all the activities that are going to be happen as part of the project. A Gantt chart, so you can make that in Excel. All you have to do is put in a name, a date from, and a date to in a table format, and Excel will automatically make that into a Gantt chart for you. Quick and easy. Resource allocation, so who's going to get what from the resources. And then our lesson learn log is going to come at you with your project successes, your project challenges, your best practices, your lesson learned, and your recommendations. It's basically what you learned along the project. But I give you a piece of advice, guys. Do not leave this till the last minute, because there's certain things that you can only learn through experience at certain parts of the project. So for example, in the beginning, you will make those mistakes that you won't make later on, and you need to show how you're getting stronger in terms of learning while you're doing the project. So don't leave these things to the last minute, and make sure all this stuff is done properly. And you can do revisions of each project document, I'm sure, as well. And so make sure you do this all on time. Make sure you don't do it in a way that's going to hurt you. So guys, as part of the project plan, your code of conduct of how your team's going to work with that is derived from the BCS code of conduct. And you need to have an agile meter as well. But mainly what you need to do is make sure you don't get stressed out, and make sure you complete all these documents on time, and you don't try to do it late, because then you won't be able to do it. Another thing, guys, I mentioned about this is that this project is actually supposed to be very big and scary. I don't know why, but it was very, very over-amped that it's scary. You can't mess up with it, and you can't get it wrong. But guys, just treat it as another assignment and you'll be okay. Another thing, so a couple of students asked me how the presentation works and what sort of questions will be asked. You will be asked questions according to your responsibility on the project. If your responsibility was quality and it's quality, you will be asked questions. So for example, how did you manage quality? How did you make sure every member of the team was working well with the quality? And how did you control it? And how did you monitor it? If you're the project manager, you will be asked questions about the project, how the project was managed, your responsibility to the stakeholders, and your responsibility to the developers and generally the team members. If you're the risk management dude, you will be asked questions. How did you manage risk? How did you mitigate losses? How did you make sure risk was managed appropriately? What contingency plan did you put in place? All these questions you will be asked. So I advise you guys, pick an application, but don't stress too much on the application in terms of the components and everything. Pick an application that you can use as bait, so you can do it properly and answer these questions properly. So for a doctor surgery application, let's say the project will be managed, obviously we've spoken about that. The data, the patient data, the making sure that it works fast and quick, to make sure the appointments are all done on time. That's more quality in terms of risk. Let's say the project deliverables, make sure that we have people on board that actually know the right skills, that have the right skills. Make sure that we have the time things, everything time related is available and on time. Stuff like that is risk. Then obviously we have our scheduling, so making sure that all the tasks that we have, so for example, who's going to build the login, who's going to build the registration, who's going to build the dashboard, who's going to build everything to do the application, all these tasks outlined, who's going to design it, all these tasks, and I need to make sure about that. But guys, my advice is don't stress about this application. It's really not that difficult. If you need any more help, let me know. But yeah, guys, that's my opinion on the application, how it should go. And yeah, you guys have this, you guys got it, and you'll be okay. If I miss anything, I'll let me know. Your presentation will be up to an hour. It can be up to an hour, but it's normally 30 minutes. And it will be addressing the legal, social, ethical, and professional parts. You can also talk about GDPR. These are all things that you can talk about and mention. It can be involved in your risks, and it can be involved in your quality as well, because it's a risk if you don't put it in, and it's a quality criteria that needs to be hit. So you must adhere to GDPR. So make sure you have the terms and conditions box that needs to be signed and that needs to be ticked, and make sure you if you're taking people's data, you have GDPR involved, because you will be asked about that, because that's a legal problem. Ethically would be make sure patients' data are correct, stuff like that. Make sure disabilities also adhere to mental health, wellness, vegans, and all that stuff. That's the application. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know. Please comment if it was helpful or useless. Please let me know. And guys, like, share, and subscribe, and comment helpful if you found this video helpful. Thank you very much. That's it.